You know how they say every job becomes routine eventually? Even the strange ones, especially the strange ones. But this routine was hiding a secret so dark. I didn't just feel it in my gut, I saw it staring back at me from across the street. Let me rewind. Out of work actress in Texas isn't a unique story. Auditions dried up, savings vanished, and I had to move back home. Pride doesn't pay the rent. That's when a Craigslist ad found me. It didn't say actors wanted. It said, mourners wanted. Must show emotion on cue. Cash paid same day. I showed up at Kendry and Son's funeral services. No sons. Just Kendry, a gaunt man who smelled of bleach and regret. He didn't ask for a resume. He handed me a schedule and said, you show up, you cry, you don't ask questions. Families want to feel their loved one mattered. That's where you come in. The first funeral was for a woman in her 70s, cancer. I sat near the front, my chest aching, forcing real tears until my face was damp. It felt wrong, but also satisfying. I was helping, making the grief feel fuller. And at the end of the day, Kendry handed me an envelope of cash. I felt relief for the first time in months. I got good at it. The rhythm was simple. Arrive, stand, sit, dab my eyes, offer a comforting hug. People thanked me. I never asked questions. But that's the thing about pretending to pay attention, you start to actually see things. I noticed how Kendry moved like a ghost between rooms. How the same cleaning crews showed up every single morning, no matter what. And then I saw him, a tall, thin man, always across the street, just watching, smoking, shifting his weight. He never came inside, never spoke. I told myself he was just a neighbor, a lonely guy with nothing better to do. But he was always there. Eventually, I was so exhausted from the performance, I almost forgot about him entirely. Weeks passed. I saw all kinds of people. Rangers, judges, a guy who supposedly worked in the circus. But I'll never forget the doctor. Handsome, slick, perfectly spoken. His calmness felt out of place. A week later, I saw him again on a TV commercial for a local car dealership. Grinning, perfect teeth. He was an actor. Just like me, my blood went cold. If he was pretending, that meant everyone in that sparse, quiet room could have been paid to be there. The rehearsed lines, the stiff body language, the way nobody ever asked who anyone was. It all clicked into place with a terrifying finality. Some of these funerals were completely fake. The bodies were real, but the grief was staged. The next few days, I couldn't unsee it. I watched everything, the sealed caskets, the way Kendry's hands lingered. On the lids a second too long. I went home and searched for the names online. Obituaries, social media, nothing. It was like these people never existed, and that's when I saw the tall man again, still across the street. But now I understood. He wasn't watching the funeral. Home. He was watching those specific services. The quiet ones. The ones for the people who didn't seem to exist. His focus was precise, intense not peace by horrifying peace. The truth dawned on me. He wasn't a neighbor. He was the reason the funerals existed. The quiet services, the missing records, the manufactured grief. It was all for him. The tall man had killed the people in those caskets. He wanted the ritual, the performance. And Kendry? He was the stage manager, paid to clean up the mess and keep the world from asking questions. Dot every tear I shed. Every comforting word I offered, it was all part of his sick private theater. I had been a performer in a killer's production. I quit the next morning. Kendry just gave me a flat smile, like he'd been waiting for it. I'm going to the cops tomorrow. I'm going to fix this, but tonight has been strange. I keep hearing noises outside my apartment. A few times I could have sworn I saw a tall, thin shadow shift in the dark across the street. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. I'm terrified. Because I think I know exactly what comes next, Dot, and they'll have to hire actors to cry for me. I was paid to capture the beauty of the wild, but I discovered a horror that refuses to remain in the shadows. Now, it's not just in the forests, it's in my home, in my vision, and it's slowly stealing my sight. This is my warning to you. Never look too closely at the corners of your world. I am a wildlife photographer. For years, I've lived for the silence of remote forests, the patience of waiting, and the thrill of capturing creatures few ever see. My work requires stillness, observation, and an intimate connection with nature. But 3 months ago, that connection was shattered. I was deep in a national forest, tracking the elusive Cascade red fox. After weeks of effort, I finally captured the perfect shot, a magnificent fox, bathed in golden light, its eyes sharp and intelligent. But when I reviewed the photos, my excitement turned to confusion. In every single frame, there was a strange vertical blur of white light in the upper right corner. It looked like a lens flare, but the angle was all wrong. A week later, I was photographing a herd of elk at dawn. The mist rose from the river, and the light was ethereal. Yet, when I reviewed those images, the same white slash appeared. Different location, different time, different lens. My equipment was flawless. The anomaly wasn't technical. It was something else, driven by a mix of professional curiosity and unease. I returned to the fox's clearing. I set up my tripod exactly as before and waited. Hours passed. The forest was quiet, but familiar. Sensation crept over me, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. My eyes scanned the tree line, and for a fraction of a second, I saw it, a tall, shimmering shape, like a man hanging upside down from a high branch. It was there and gone so quickly I doubted my own sanity. I needed answers. I visited the nearest ranger station and described what I'd seen. The two rangers exchanged a knowing glance. The older one spoke softly. "We call him the Peripheral man. He's been here for years. The rule is simple. If you see him, you don't look. You don't acknowledge him. You pretend it never happened." But I couldn't let it go. As a photographer, my purpose is to capture, to understand. I began hunting him. Whenever I felt his presence, I raised my camera and fired shot after shot into the periphery. The images grew more disturbing. The white slash became brighter, almost aggressive, as if it were fighting back. Then my camera failed. Every photo I took was pure white light. He had corrupted my tool. Still, I persisted. I tried to see him with my own eyes, straining my peripheral vision to bring him into focus. That's when the white spot first appeared in the corner of my right eye, a small, blurry smudge. Each time I tried to focus on him, the smudge grew. It was no longer in my photos, it was in me. He was stealing my sight. Terrified, I fled the forest. I haven't returned since. A month has passed. The white spot remains, a expanding blindness that doctors can't explain. They say my eyes are healthy. I know the truth. I burned every photo I took of him. I destroyed the evidence, hoping it would break the connection dot. It didn't. He's here with me now, in my home, in the city. I feel his gaze from the edge of the room. If I turn, he's gone. But the white fog in my eye swells each time. I live in constant vigilance, forcing my eyes forward, denying the urge to look. The rangers were right. Some things exist only at the margins for a reason. To look is to invite them in. To acknowledge is to be erased. So if you're ever alone in the silence of the wild, and you feel that cold attention, that flicker of something wrong just beyond your view, remember my warning. Do not look. Do not wonder. Turn away before it follows you home. 2 years ago, a woman spilled a drink on me at a bar and changed my life forever. We fell in love, moved in together, and built a future. But last week she vanished without a trace, and now no one remembers her but me. I know how it sounds. I know I sound crazy, but I'm not. I'm really not. About 2 years ago, my friend Andrew convinced me to go to a bar. He'd just been cheated on and wanted to get under someone new, as he put it. I've never been big on loud, crowded places. I prefer quiet hangs or house parties, but I went to support him. I spent most of the night sipping overpriced whiskey in the corner, watching him attempt dance moves that somehow worked on the girl he was talking to. I wasn't looking for anyone. after my last relationship ended. I'd sworn off dating. I needed time to figure myself out. But then, a woman accidentally bumped into me, spilling her gin and tonic all over my shirt. I looked up ready to be annoyed, but my irritation vanished the second I saw her. She was apologizing profusely, but all I could focus on were her eyes, warm, intelligent, and full of life. She wasn't a supermodel, but there was something about her that felt familiar. Like someone I'd known my whole life. Her name was Mary. We talked all night. She was studying psychology, minoring in philosophy, loved hiking, dogs, and old cartoons. She told me her favorite thing was taking walks at night when the world felt like it belonged only to her. We ended up walking until the sun came up. I was already falling for her. We exchanged numbers and started dating. Since I worked weekends and she had classes during the week, we mostly saw each other at night. We went to movies, cooked dinners. At my place, took long walks. She never invited me to her apartment. She lived with 3 roommates she couldn't stand. So we always stayed at mine. After about a year, she showed up at my door crying. She'd had a huge fight with her roommates and needed to get out. Without thinking, I asked her to move in with me. My lease was ending and I'd been looking at a 2-bedroom place anyway. She hesitated at first. Money was tight for her, but I assured her it was fine. I wanted her with me. The first few months were perfect. We learned how to live together, and I knew I was going to marry her. But then things started to feel off. She never mentioned her family before, so when I asked about meeting her parents, she broke down. She told me they died in a car accident when she was in middle school. A semi-truck ran a red light and T-boned their car on the way to pick her up from a field trip. She lived with her grandmother after that, but her grandmother passed away from cancer right before Mary turned 18. It struck me as strange that she'd waited over a year to tell me something so significant, but I didn't push. I figured it was just painful for her to talk about. She also didn't have any close friends. No stories about childhood best friends or college roommates. I tried setting up double dates with Andrew and his girlfriend, but Mary always had an excuse to. Tired? Too busy with school? It was like I was the only person in her life. Then, about 2 months ago, she became distant. She talked less, stopped wanting to go on walks, stayed late at school studying. She missed dinners, and sometimes I wouldn't see her until I woke up in the morning and found her asleep beside me. I thought it was stress finals were coming up, and she was worried about graduating and finding a job. But then she started losing weight. She barely ate, just snacked on fruit here and there. I begged her to see a doctor. After weeks of resisting, she finally agreed. I made an appointment for August 1st at 9:30 a.m. That morning, I woke up to the alarm and reached for her, but she wasn't there. I figured she'd woken up early, but when I went to the living room, she was gone. The car was still in the driveway. I called her phone, but her contact was gone from my phone. I dialed her number manually, and a recorded voice told me the line had been disconnected. My heart started racing. I called Andrew, half panicked. Mary's gone, I said. She left me. Who's Mary? He asked, genuinely confused. What do you mean? My girlfriend. We've been together for 2 years. Dude, you haven't dated anyone since Jessica. Are you okay? I hung up. My hands were shaking. I drove to her college, ran to the administration desk, and asked for Mary Fulbright. The woman typed her name into the system. I'm sorry, sir. There's no one here by that name. She's in the psychology master's program. Professor Jackson's class. The woman directed me to Professor Jackson's office. I waited outside, trying to calm myself down. When he arrived, I asked him about Mary. I don't know anyone. By that name? He said. I showed him my phone, scrolling through photos, but every picture of her was gone. In our couple photos, I was alone, my arm resting on empty air. The only photo that remained was one she'd taken of me on the couch. But if she didn't take it, who did? I called my mom. Do you remember Mary? I asked. Who, sweetie? I hung up. Defeated, I went home. Her clothes were gone. Her schoolwork was gone. The lease had only my signature. It was like she'd never existed, but I remember her. I remember everything. The way she laughed, The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. The way she said my name. She was real. I've spent the last week searching online for others who've experienced something like this. I found a small group of people whose partners vanished without a trace, leaving no evidence behind. One of them, Tom, is in Peru. He says there's a shaman there who might know what's going on. I bought a ticket to Peru. I'm going. To find answers, Mary. If you're out there, I'm coming for you. I won't stop until I find you. I'm not crazy. I will find you. I drive for a living, but my real job starts after dark. There are rules, ancient, unbreakable laws that keep the things that ride in my backseat from turning on me. Last night, I broke the most important one. And now, they know about my son. There's a reason we're scared of the dark, that familiar discomfort. When you're driving alone at night, even if you don't see anyone on the road around you. It's instinct, a warning built into your bones. Because there are things out there, beings we can't explain. They don't show up on camera. They don't care about your pepper spray. But they follow rules, ancient ones. Rituals, maybe. I don't know where they come from or who made them. But I've learned this much. If you follow the rules, they'll leave you alone. I just never thought I'd experience something like that behind the wheel of a damn cab. People think being a rideshare driver is simple, and they're right, ... for the most part. You drive. You talk if they want to talk. You drop them off. You get paid. No real boss breathing down your neck. No office politics. No deadlines. Just the road, your car, and a playlist long enough to keep you entertained between rides. That's why I started doing it in the first place. After I left my old job, I didn't want to deal with people anymore. Not really. I'd been a mechanic for 20 years, ran my own shop until my knees gave out, and my business went to shit. The rideshare apps came at the right time. I didn't have to smile if I didn't want to. I didn't have to fix anybody's problems. Just get them where. They were going. During the day, it's easy. College kids heading to class, nurses pulling doubles, grocery store runs for people without cars. Honest, quiet work. Sometimes I'd even enjoy the small talk. I liked hearing about their lives. Felt like I was doing something good, even if it was just 5 stars and a quiet thanks. But at night, things change. The air gets heavy. The people get strange. I remember when I first heard about the rules of the road after sundown. Not guidelines. Not suggestions. Rules. They show up on the app the second the sun begins to set ... and if you break one well. Let's just say you don't want to find out what happens. I'm sure this is very confusing to hear for the first time. So let me explain. Every night shift starts the same. Right after sunset, the app buzzes and emits a strange sound. Not a standard chirp a notification makes. Something dull and stringy, like a warning siren before a storm, on a much smaller scale, of course. The screen goes black just before a message appears in blocky text. Tonight. Shift protocol active between sunset and sunrise ... Do not look at passengers directly. Use the rear view mirror if you must ... Do not accept payment greater than the cab fare. Never take gifts. Only process one ride at a time. Never allow multiple passengers in your car. Make sure your final passenger is dropped off before sunrise. I review them every time, even though I've got them memorized. I don't know if the app updates them or if something darker is watching. To make sure I read them. Either way, I never skip that screen. At least, I don't anymore. I made the mistake of ignoring the rules once, and that was one time too many. I never really was a superstitious man. Back when I started doing nights, I laughed. Rules like these felt like a joke, some edgy tech campaign or something. The kind of stuff that gets passed around on Halloween to show they're being hip and festive. But the thing is, these rules, they're the real deal. The consequences are even more real. I learned that the hard way got it started with something small, just a guy who insisted on paying double. He said he appreciated my service, said I looked tired and he wanted to bless me. He pulled out a crisp 100 and set it gently on the center. Console. I told him no ... He insisted. Asterisk, I told him again. He smiled and slipped it into the queue folder. It's yours either way, man. I didn't touch it. Just left it there until he was gone. I mean, what's the harm? The guy looked unremarkable after all. A middle-aged gentleman with slick back salt and pepper hair, reading glasses, t-shirt and a vest. Gave me easygoing surfer vibes. Then I looked up in the mirror. He was still there. I heard him leave, heard the door shut behind him, and saw him disappear into the dark. But he was there, grinning. His eyes were all black. He mouthed something. But the words didn't match the movement. Like a broken puppet trying to whisper a prayer. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I reached back, heart pounding. The seat was empty. He was nowhere to be found. Except for the mirror. He stayed there for the rest of the drive, just smiling. Chatting away, I parked my cab in the farthest corner of my apartment's lot, locked the doors, and went inside. That $100 bill stayed exactly where it was, untouched, humming with some quiet, invisible pressure. I could feel its presence everywhere I went. Something was trying to make me go back for it. Spend it, maybe? I wasn't sure, but I needed help to make it go away. I contacted support through the app. There's no helpline, no human name. Just a form with one question. Describe your incident. I typed everything. The passenger, the tip, the mirror. I waited. I felt so silly. 20-4 hours later. I got a reply. Protocol breach acknowledged. Remedial steps required before shift may resume. Burn the foreign currency. Avoid seafood for 2 full days. Thanks for contacting technical support. That was it. No apology, no explanation, just instructions. I picked up the $100 bill like it was a loaded firearm and was surprised by the weight of it. I went out to the alley behind my complex and set it on fire in a soup can. The flames hissed green for a moment, then evaporated. It didn't smell like money burning, it smelled like salt and old fish. I skipped sushi that week. Thankfully, I'm not much of a fish guy. By the 3rd night, the app let me log in again. And like nothing ever happened, the rides returned. It has been pretty smooth sailing ever since. Not every shift is terrifying. Some are just a weird dot, like the woman in the bright yellow dress who got in without saying a word and only whispered her destination. The bog. Or the man who didn't blink, stared straight ahead, and screamed every time we passed a fire hydrant. The weirdest ride I ever gave was from last November. It was around 3:12 a.m., that dead stretch of time where the world feels empty. I was parked near the outskirts of town, engine idling, watching a moth dive repeatedly into the windshield. A ping came through. There was no address, just coordinates. I almost declined. Nobody lives way out there. It's all farmland and old sheds, but I was behind on rent, and I was pretty good at following the rules at this point. The profile picture was blank. Name just said M. Fine. I accepted as I approached the pickup spot. My headlights hit something standing in the middle of the road. A man. No. A figure. Very still. Dressed in old-fashioned clothes. Black hat, long coat, hands folded in front of him like he was. At a funeral, I stopped. Asterisk, he didn't move. I glanced at the app. The pin was directly on him. Against my better judgment, I rolled down the window a few inches. Hey, Elon. The figure nodded once. I unlocked the doors and pulled up the rules. Panel on the app and my phone. Got same rules as always. No change. I read over the first one for good measure. Do not look at passengers directly. Use the rearview mirror if you must . He opened the back door and slid in. Didn't speak. Just sat there, the seat creaking under his weight. I pulled away from the shoulder and merged back onto the main road. The silence was suffocating. I snuck a glance into the rearview mirror. At first, I saw nothing. Then the mirror fogged up, as if someone had breathed on it from the inside. I wiped away the condensation with my thumb and nearly jumped in my seat at what was revealed beneath. The figure in the back seat wasn't looking at me. It was holding something, a large postcard pressed flat against its face like a mask. Long fingers curled around the edge's fingers with nails so long and yellow they looked rotted. Just the sight of them sent a cold wave down my spine. I leaned forward just slightly, enough to make out the writing. 2 words scrawled across the card in what looked like red ink, asterisk or blood. I couldn't tell. Just drive. It said I didn't ask questions. I drove for 40 minutes. We cruised past silent fields, dead gas stations, and stretches of road I swear I'd never seen on any map. I didn't get a destination update. No timer. Just me, the road, and whatever was sitting behind me. The silence felt thicker than usual. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the occasional creak of the frame, like the car itself. Felt uneasy. I kept checking the rear view, but the mirror kept fogging up. Over and over. I wiped it clean with the side of my hand, each time revealing the same thing. He was closer at first. He was sitting upright, stiff, almost mannequin-like. Next time, he was leaning slightly forward. Then his knees were nearly touching the back of my seat. His hat was old and stained, the brim tipped just low enough to hide most of his face. Torn in one corner, frayed like it had been dragged through gravel. I couldn't see his eyes, but I could feel them. Like heat on the back of my neck. A cold sweat was forming along my forehead. I didn't know what to do. No name, no timer, no destination. That had never happened before. I gripped the wheel tighter and kept driving, heart pounding louder than the tires on the asphalt. What do I do if he doesn't leave? What if he just sits there until the sun comes up? Something bad would happen. I didn't know exactly, but I knew the rules. This wasn't just another creepy fare dot at exactly 4 a.m. He tapped the window twice. I pulled over. Before I could say a word, the door creaked open and slammed shut. I checked the mirror. Fog gone. Seat empty, except for something left behind. There was a small envelope with one of those fancy wax seals. Inside was a bundle of tattered cash wrapped in a classy red bow. Not a cent over the fare. Thank God. I set it aside and sat there for a while, just breathing. The car was finally quiet. Still, that night feels like it happened ages ago. I'm more seasoned now. Passengers without destinations. Common occurrence these days. Took me a while to realize they're not chasing a place. They're chasing a feeling, a reaction. They're insatiable like that, but I've learned a lot since then. I know better than to feed their desires. You give them the cold shoulder long enough, and eventually they leave. These days, I'm more composed. Like a prison warden ferrying rowdy inmates. I even bought a pistol. It sits in the glove compartment, mostly idle. But if someone in the back gets bold, starts creeping too close, a little flash of the barrel is usually enough. They growl. They curse. Slam the door behind them. Cab fare left on the seat. Not a cent. Overpaid. I don't bother being gentle. It's not like they can tip me, but tonight I'm feeling a bit more anxious than usual. It isn't because of the job. Nope. Supernatural. Cab passengers are a walk in the park compared to what I have in store tomorrow. My son's getting married. I haven't been part of his life. Not really. That was my fault. I kept my distance after the divorce. Told myself he'd be better. Off without me hovering around. No awkward visits. No clumsy father-son talks. Just base dot. But when the invitation came, I cried. I just sat on the couch, clutching that envelope, and cried like I hadn't in years. There was no way I was missing it. I've missed too much already. I should be resting right now, getting ready for the big day, but I needed to calm my nerves. For some odd reason, this job does it for me. Midnight hits. The app dings first ride of the night. I take a deep breath and swipe to accept. Gotta focus. Just get through the shift, then it's straight to the hotel, change into the suit, and head to the ceremony. The guy who gets in looks normal. Collared. Shirt, dark jeans, clean cut. He slides into the back seat without a word at first. I start driving. A few blocks in, he speaks up. Big night? I nod. Yeah, my son's getting married tomorrow. Oh, that's great. What's his name? I hesitate. James. He repeats it, real slow. James. Strong name. What time's the wedding? 2, I say, eyes fixed on the road. He grins. That's wonderful. You must be proud. I give a tight smile, but don't answer. Something about the way he's asking all this makes me uneasy. It's not the questions. People make small talk all the time. It's the way he leans in when he speaks like he already knows the answers. like he's confirming something. We pull up to his drop-off. He thanks me, steps out, and just stands there on the curb, staring through the rear window. I look straight ahead and pretend not to notice. After a few seconds, he disappears into the dark. I sit there in silence, hands still on the wheel. That was strange. Even stranger than usual. Dot then hits me, got the rules. I forgot to check the rules. Tonight, I pulled up the app and swiped to the rules section. Crap. There's a new rule. Don't talk to the passengers about your personal life. I stare at the screen like maybe I'm reading it wrong. Like maybe it's always been there and I just never noticed. But I know better. That rule wasn't there yesterday. My heart starts pounding. I pull over, open the app, and send a message. To support. Something simple. There's a new rule. I broke it. How bad is this? What should I do? No reply. Silence ensued. Last time I broke the rules, it took 24 hours to respond. And I don't have 24 hours. Eventually, I pull back onto the road. I figure I'll do a couple more drop-offs. Keep things simple. Maybe if I don't mess up again, everything will smooth over. The next few passengers seem normal enough. Quiet. But there's this weird vibe. A kind of smugness. A few of them chuckle under their breath. One guy keeps stealing glances at me in the rear view like I'm the punchline to some inside joke. Another girl won't stop smiling, just this too wide. Grin, like she knows some deep dark secret about me. Doubt it starts to wear on me. By the third ride like that, my stomach's turning, and then it gets worse. My next pickup is a woman standing alone in a corner in full wedding attire. A long white dress. Veil. Okay. It looks new. Clean. Not like a Halloween thing, this. Looks real. Expensive. She doesn't speak when she gets in. Just hum softly. Then she starts singing. Here comes the bride. Over and over. Whispered. Off key. Like she's only half remembering the melody. The hair on my arms. Stands up. I drive in silence. Try not to react. She keeps singing all the way to her destination. And just before she opens the door, she leans forward and whispers. So, when's the wedding? Asterisk, I say nothing. She tilts her head like a confused bird. Then she gets out and drifts off into the dark, dragging the bottom of the dress behind her. I'm breathing hard now. Knuckles white on the wheel. Next ride. A guy in a wrinkled button-up shirt, tie hanging loose. He climbs in already shouting. He was a goddamn mechanic, and you know what? He was useless. Sat on his ass for 20 years and expects me to. Be grateful. I keep driving. He doesn't stop. My fiancée wants me to invite him. Can you believe that? To my own wedding? She doesn't know the guy. Hell, I don't even know the guy. He starts banging his fist on the seat in rhythm. Like he's working himself up to something. I glance in the rear view. Big mistake. His eyes are wide, wild, red around the edges. There's something shiny in his lap. For a second I think it's a phone. It's not. Without warning, he raises a pistol, sticks it under his chin, and pulls the trigger. A deafening pop. Windshield doesn't shatter, but I hear the spray hit the back window. He slumps sideways. The door opens on its own, like someone was helping him out. I hear his body land on the sidewalk with a thump, and the door slams shut behind him. I don't stop. I don't check. I just keep driving. Like I said, I'm a seasoned driver now. Sad to say, this isn't the first time one of these loons popped themselves in the backseat to try and get me to turn around. I have bigger issues to worry about. The rule break hung heavy in my head, and I still haven't heard back from support. Next passenger looked. Relatively normal, clean dash cut. Mid-20s, button-down shirt tucked into dark jeans. He smiled as he climbed into the backseat. Polite nod. No words. The last few rides have been unsettling, to say the least. But this guy felt different, not better. Just different. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Something in his silence felt smug. Like he already knew me. Like we'd done this before. We drove for 15 minutes without a word. Then I pulled up to the hotel. He didn't move. I shifted into park and turned slightly. Still not looking directly. At him. Just using the mirror. This is the address. You're good to go? He stared at me. No change in expression. No acknowledgement, Dot, and then I heard it. A knock on the driver's side window. Dad? I nearly jumped out of my skin. I turned, and there he was, James, my son, in his dress shirt and slacks, standing outside the hotel, looking confused and a little nervous. The same hotel he and the groomsmen were staying at tonight. How could I forget? I forced a smile. Oh, hey, son. Just dropping someone off. You nervous for tomorrow? He squinted at me like something was off. Yeah, can we talk? My stomach tightened. I had to get this guy out of the car. Sure, just let me finish this ride. I'll come inside after, okay? His eyes drifted past me to the back seat. Troy? He said. I froze. The figure in the back seat leaned forward, resting his elbows casually on the front headrest. His smile widened. Hey man, can you believe this? I ran into your pops and figured we'd do a quick beer run before the big day. Hop in. My blood went cold. No. That isn't Troy. I thought to myself. But I couldn't tell James that. I don't know what would happen if I did. This was bad. Really bad. No, James said, shaking his head in disbelief. Troy, you were just inside. You were with the guys. How? How did you get out here so fast? The figure didn't break character. He laughed like it was a shared joke between friends. James looked between us, clearly unnerved. Dad, who is that? I didn't wait for the thing in the back to answer. This couldn't go on any longer. I slammed the car into drive and tore out of the parking lot, tires screeching, engine roaring, Dot in the mirror. James was yelling something, running after us. I couldn't hear him. You're gonna miss the wedding, the thing said, voice perfectly calm. That's not very fatherly of you. Shut up, I snapped. You're not getting in my head. Oh, come on, it could. Don't be like that. Your son talks about you all the time, to me, to everyone. I kept my eyes on the road, jaw clenched so tight I could feel it in my temples, although he doesn't say good things. You're not a good father, Ben. Shut up, I hissed, tears bubbling in the corner of my eyes. You miss birthdays. Miss milestones. What are you even doing now? Trying to show up at the last second and pretend it means something. I gripped the wheel harder. I wanted to slam the brakes, throw open the door, and drag this thing out by whatever skin it had stolen. Oh, don't be like that, Ben. I have something that'll cheer you up, it whispered. Just keep driving, all the way until the sun comes up. I have something to show you. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My phone buzzed on the seat beside me. James, again. I didn't answer. The only sound in the car was the hum of the tires and that thing breathing behind me, waiting. I wasn't sure what to do now. The passenger gave me a drop-off and refused to get out. That hasn't really happened before. There's no way for me to force it out either. Not without looking directly at it. If I couldn't get this guy to leave before the sun came up, I was screwed. It was useless. I pull over hard, tires kicking up dust on the shoulder of the road. The thing in the back doesn't flinch, just smiles like it's been waiting for this. Moment all night, I open the glove box and take out my Glock 45. Oh, it says, that didn't take long. You already getting tired of me, Ben. I don't answer. I close my eyes and take a few deep breaths. Oh, Ben, you don't have to do this. You're going to miss out on all the fun I have in store. I don't even turn around. I raise the gun behind me, steady my breathing, and pull the trigger. The shot is deafening in the confined space. I don't look. I just sit there, ears ringing, heart thudding. I wait for movement, for another voice. But there's nothing. I finally peek into the rearview mirror once again. It's slumped over in the seat. Still smiling, but quiet now. Unmoving. Knew that wasn't going to kill this thing, but it still felt good. I just needed to shut it up for a minute. If it wasn't going to leave, so be it. I had to come to terms with that fact. I wasn't going to make it to the wedding. I was going to abandon my son again, this time for good. The least I could do was say sorry. Tell him I loved him. I just wish I could have done it sooner. Damn it. I wish I had more time. I pull out my phone. Hands shaking. I try to call James back, but it goes straight to voicemail. I speak through the lump in my throat. Hey, it's Dad. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I should have been there for you. I should have been better. The thing in the back seat was sitting upright now, dusting off its blood-soaked shirt and slicking back the loose hair where the bullet exited. I started to sob into the phone. But I'm proud of you, James. I really am. Despite all my mistakes, you've done everything right. And I'm really, really happy I get to be at your wedding. The mimic was coughing now, pounding its chest with a closed fist. I heard a loud metallic clang as the bullet bounced off one of its teeth on the way out of its throat. I stifle a sob and take a deep breath before continuing. I love you so much, James. I'll see you soon, buddy. I hang up, tears running down my face, fogging up the screen. I sat there in silence for a few minutes. I watched as an orange glow began to rise from the horizon dot. It was almost sunrise. I closed my eyes and gripped the steering wheel in grim anticipation. This was it. I wasn't sure what happened if I broke this rule, but I knew there was no coming back from it. Tech support wouldn't be able to help me out of this one. Then I hear clapping dot soft. Slow dot I look up dot in the rear view. I see the thing clapping and wearing a wide smile. Only this time it doesn't look as smug. It appears sincere. Genuine. Nice job, Ben, it says. Really touching. It drops a handful of bills into the seat beside it and steps out of the vehicle dot. It ducks its head inside to give one final farewell. Congrats on your son's wedding. Then it was gone. Just before the sunrise. I'm not sure why it decided to leave. All the night passengers want something. A reaction. A release. Most of the time it is something mean-spirited. They crave anger, heartbreak, desperation. Maybe this one was benevolent. Maybe it needed to experience something heartfelt. Something real. God knows I needed it to. I'm just glad it's all over. I didn't take any more rides for the rest. Of the night, I went home. Scrubbed the blood off the backseat even though there wasn't any. Changed the air freshener even though it still smelled new. Took a long hot shower. Put on the suit I hadn't worn in years. When I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I didn't look any different, but I felt different. I wasn't ashamed of the man that looked back at me. I was going to be a new person. I knew it was too late to be a good dad. I've been away too long to fix that, but he would always be my son. And he needed to know that I was never going to abandon him. I got in the car, not for work, just to drive Dot Asterisk to the wedding. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something that almost scared me more than a lifetime of ferrying supernatural passengers. Hope. There's a reason the locals never go near Lake Wilcox. They know what waits beneath the surface, a thing that wears a drowning man's face. I learned the hard way. I lost 2 friends to it in one night. Now, 19 years later, I'm going back to finish what it started. I know. It sounds awful, but I have to warn you anyway. It's not worth the risk, even if the person drowning might not be him. You'll never see his face through the splashes, so don't think. It's a simple matter of recognition. They say he only appears at night, but I've heard a story or two from the daylight hours over the years. It's never safe to rescue someone. The locals all know this, but I didn't. Not until it was far too late. It was summer of 2006. I was 19 back then. Just a dumbass kid shouldering a dangerous feeling of invincibility. Enough so that I had become a volunteer firefighter straight out of high school. Most of my friends went off to college, so the semester months of late 2005 had been quite lonely. I saw my best friend Carson over winter break, and she must have picked up on my low mood. I'll tell you what, Joey, she had said. Next summer, I'll grab Trish and Cole, and we'll all go on a camping trip. At the time, the very idea caused my heart to grow wings and soar to cloud 9. I wish I could forget that feeling. Maybe the fall wouldn't hurt as much from a lesser height. Trish and Cole had been our friends since 6th grade. Carson and I took bets on how long it would take those two to get together, but we both lost. They were smart enough to stay just friends until they were accepted to the same college. While I had known Carson since kindergarten, they were still very dear friends of mine, all the same. The four of us had gone camping with Cole's parents in the summer of 1999. The group unanimously considered the trip to be our finest hour. Hell, I still have a picture of us from that trip on my desk at home. You can clearly see Cole looking at Trish, and we gave him shit about it for years. Some days, I even turned around to face me as I as the summer approached. Our excitement grew. We'd already bought the tents, some fishing gear, and a cooler for our illicit beverages. We borrowed the rest from Cole's family. We planned most of the details out, and by we, I mean Trish, as she didn't appreciate spontaneity like the rest of us did. And I had the printed directions to Lake Wilcox in hand when Carson rolled up in her 1992 Tahoe. I quickly threw my gear and backpack in the rear before jumping into the passenger seat. The moment I sat down, Carson leaned over and gave me a hug. There he is. Came Cole's voice from the back seat as he clapped a massive hand on my shoulder. It's so good to see you. Beamed Trish as she held Cole's other hand. How have you been? Can't complain, I replied. I had my first house fire last week. Everyone made it out before we even got there. And yes, they had their cat with them. I've never seen a cat looking so pissed off. Jesus. Joey, said Cole, shaking his head. You sound way too excited when you talk about burning buildings. Carson glanced over, agreement clear in her eyes. Yeah, I know, I said as I rubbed the back of my neck. Just promise us you won't be stupid and rush in, Trish added. I want this trip to be an annual thing, and it won't be the same without your dumbass. I smiled. I promise. So, Carson interrupted. You gonna tell me which way we're going, First Officer dipshit? The rest of the 4-hour drive went much the same way. It gave us plenty of time to catch up with one another, and Cole took full advantage of the cooler within arm's reach. Trish frowned disapprovingly as he stumbled while exiting Carson's Tahoe. The rest of us followed suit, and together we walked across the gravel lot towards the tree line. Asterisk. I'll give it to Trish. She picked one hell of a spot. The trees were tall, yet not so dense as to block too much sunlight or hinder hiking. A perfect combination of shade and the space to toss a frisbee. I could already see several perfect locations to set up our tents. And then there was Lake Wilcox itself. The waters reached the shore no more than 50 feet from where we would ultimately set up camp. An old dock stood nearby, going out about 20 feet into the lake. The surface was calm, but moved enough to soothe any worries of still water. Oh, hell yeah. Cole cheered. This is gonna be so awesome, babe, you're incredible. Trish huffed, but couldn't quite hide her smile. Yeah, Trish, this looks perfect. Carson added, how did you find this place? Google Earth, Trish replied with pride. It looked like a great place to camp. The nearest town is only 2 miles away in case we end up needing anything, she said, glancing at the notoriously forgetful Cole. Plus, I couldn't find anything online about people camping here, so I figured we'd probably have the place to ourselves. Well, it looks like you were right, I chimed in. I don't see any campsites. Hell, it looks like nobody's been here in a while. Well, let's hurry up and get our tents up so we can start drinking, said Cole, effortlessly knocking the smile clear off Trish's face. Once we were set up, the fun really began. The drinks were flowing, the fish were biting, and Cole had the time of his life as we tossed a football back and forth. He blew out his knee during his senior season, and I could tell how much he enjoyed catching passes again. Carson and Trish were arranging small rocks to build a makeshift fire pit. As Carson straightened the last rock to her liking, she stood up and took off her shirt to reveal the bikini top she had on beneath. Before I could react, the rest of her outerwear was in her tent and she was racing towards the dock. Cannonball! She shouted as she entered the water with a massive splash. We all laughed and started stripping down to our swimsuits and leapt in one by one. The water felt incredible against my skin as I broke the surface. Carson beamed at me. Come on, Joey. Let's swim out a bit. Look, I'm not a perfect man, Although I would have never risked her friendship, I did have a thing for Carson back then. It didn't take much for her to convince me to do something. Soon. The depth was beyond where our toes could touch, and Carson challenged me to a race. By swimming at full speed the moment I looked back to see our other friends. Her laughter was cut short when her feet touched the bottom again. About 100 yards from the shore. "Hey Joey, come check this out," she said as she stood up. Sure enough, my feet soon touched the bottom as well. At my full height, the water barely reached my waist. "It must be a sandbar," she said. "This is pretty cool." "Yeah, you're right. Think we should call Trish and Cole out here?" Asterisk Carson looked back towards the shore. The couple were having a blast, splashing each other back in the shallows, as if we weren't even here. "Nah," she said, as she lowered her body back into the shallow water. "It's like our own private island." She paused. "Unless you've got a problem with being stranded on an island with me, why would I?" Yes, readers. I couldn't read a flashing neon sign. Anyway, we stayed right there for around half an hour, only swimming back as the sun began to slide below the horizon. Soon, the four of us were comfortably surrounding a small campfire. "Hey, can I talk to you for a sec?" Cole asked me quietly. "Yeah, of course," I said as I set my beer down. Doc Cole beckoned me over and I joined him a short distance away. "Alright, what's up, man?" Cole rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "My dumb ass left the protection at home." "I mean, I've got a gun in my bag," I replied. "No, dude, the other protection." "Oh, well, good job, buddy. If you're asking me for one, I don't have any." "Damn, I was hoping you finally had the balls to make a move on Carson. Hurtful." "Anyway," said Cole, "do you think Carson would let me borrow her Tahoe so I can get some in town?" "Why are you asking me?" "Ask her. And are you even sober?" "Yeah, I'm good," he assured me. I noticed my fuck up when I put my stuff in our tent, so I haven't had a drink since we got here. "Can you ask her?" "I don't want Trish to." "No." I rolled my eyes. "Whatever, man. I'll see what I can do." Asterisk Carson was hesitant, but Cole really had sobered up in the hours we had been here. So she agreed and gave him directions to the nearby town. Cole fed Trish a story of wanting to grab some more snacks, and he left Dot by this point. Carson and I were quite drunk, and returned to our tents once Trish assured us that she would be alright waiting for Cole. I didn't wake up until I heard Carson scream, "Trish, oh me go, Joe. Get out here now." I never moved so fast in my life. I was out of my tent like a shot, and immediately saw Carson kneeling at the water's edge. My heart sank as I sprinted towards her. But she wasn't alone, asterisk, though only lit by moonlight. I could still see that she was dragging Trish ashore. And Trish was unresponsive, not my training kicked in, and I quickly rolled Trish onto her back to clear her airway. I couldn't feel a pulse. So I began CPR. Water flowed from her open mouth with the first compression. As soon as the water stopped, I began mouth to mouth, but Carson stopped me. "I'll do that. You focus on her heart." I pushed down on her chest with everything I had. The sickening crunch of my friend's ribs breaking under my hands is a feeling that will never leave me. But it was no use. As soon as I had a proper look at her face, I knew Trish was gone. Her skin had gone pale with the telltale blue tint of asphyxiation. Her open, unfocused eyes were the final sign that my efforts were in vain. Slowly, I stopped my compressions, and Carson buried her face in my shoulder and began to cry. I hadn't even noticed my own tears until that moment. I reached down and closed her eyes. "Carson, what happened?" I stepped out to pee, and I saw her floating in the water. She responded between soft sobs. She was face down. I looked down at the body of our friend. She was still wearing her gym shorts and tank top, as if she hadn't planned on entering the water. I steadied myself as best I could. "We need to call the police," I said gently. Carson nodded and rubbed her eyes before standing up and walking back towards her tent to grab her phone. Something else was bothering me, though. Trish had been a member of our school's swimming team. For her to drown like this made no sense. But there was one other thing. To this day, Carson doesn't know what I saw in the water as we pulled Trish out, eyes glazed over as if dead, until they blinked, but they immediately vanished after that. At the time, I assumed it had been a large catfish or something. I have no signal, came Carson's voice from behind me. Shit, I'll go try. Sure enough, my phone also had no service. Same with Trish's, and Cole has the truck, I thought aloud as the full helplessness of the situation hit me. Cole, whispered Carson. Oh, God. How are we gonna tell him? I'll tell him, I said. I've had to do it before. What Carson didn't know was the day after the house fire my department had put out, I responded to a car accident. I had to tell the driver that his brother in the passenger seat was gone. Helping me. The voice came with a flurry of frantic splashing in the lake behind me. I whipped around to see a man foundering a few hundred feet from the shore. Instinct once again took over, and I tossed my phone aside. But before I could jump into the water, I felt a hand clamp down on my shoulder. Wait, came Carson's voice from behind me. Let go, I said, trying to shrug her hand off of me, but she gripped tighter. Joseph, something's not right. We had been friends for 15 years at that time, and not once had she called me that. Not just that there was a fear in her voice I had never heard before. It was enough to stop me in my tracks. I looked back and Carson was staring out at the drowning man. Look where he is. I turned back towards the lake and froze. The turbulent water was directly over the sandbar. The man was splashing in less than 3 feet of water. My body went cold. My instincts screamed as if I had come face to face with a mountain lion. We watched the lake in silence for what felt like an eternity, as the man continued to call for help, until he stopped. The lake instantly fell silent, along with any wildlife in the area. It was as if the woods themselves held their breath, and a pale face began emerging from the water where the man had been. It broke the surface and it just kept rising. It finally came to a stop around 6 feet above the water, and that was when I noticed the body of a man beneath it. He stood motionless on the surface. As he stared at us, another detail emerged. His neck was broken. The dead eyes staring back at us were nearly vertical. The man let out a horrific screech and sprinted across the water straight towards us. Far faster than any man ever could, with his head flopping against his shoulder the entire way. His movements weren't natural, almost like a section of film with too many cuts and sloppy editing. Before we could even react to what was happening, he came to an instant halt at the same point the water did, less than 4 feet from Carson. The man glanced at the ground before him and glared at us with utter malice clear in his broken face. What's going on? Who the fuck is that? Came Cole's voice from somewhere behind us that the man's head snapped upright instantly. A terrifying smile full of rotten, broken teeth crept across his features before taking a step backward into the water. Cole must have noticed Trish's body, as he let out a cry and rushed to her side, hopelessly shaking his dead fiancée. What did you do? To her? He roared, tears forming in his eyes as he turned to face the smiling man, who responded by taking another step back into the lake and holding his grin. Cole, don't! Carson screamed, but it was too late. Cole charged his partner's killer. You? Son of a bitch. I'll kill you, was all he got out before being pulled under water. I dove in after him without a second thought. He was our friend. He would have done the same for us. I swam after the bubble trail as fast as I could, but I only made it 50 feet before something tightened around my neck and snapped my head backward, down into the pitch black water. I felt a thud below me as if something heavy had impacted the lake floor. The shimmering moonlight was barely visible from the surface about 20 feet above me. My hands clawed at the invisible rope around my neck as my lungs began to burn. My vision started to blur. My movement slowed, though I refused to give up as a shadow blocked the dim light from above. Tarzan thought. She single quotes defound me. I hadn't noticed her following me into the water after Cole. She grabbed my arm and pulled against the invisible rope as it fought to take my life. She must have noticed my struggle against my own throat, and she reached for the force holding me under Dot, and it vanished. I was free. Carson dragged me to the surface just before the inevitable reflex to breathe. could draw water into my lungs. Seconds after we surfaced, a muffled screech emitted from the bubbling waters below. It sounded pissed. Swim. She shouted Dot leading up to this moment. I wasn't a particularly fast swimmer. However, survival instincts easily doubled my normal pace as we frantically swam for the bank. But we weren't the only ones. A stream of bubbles was streaking towards us from behind. I fucking felt the man swim past me just before Carson went under. Without a second thought, I pushed myself back underwater after her. But whatever this thing was put banshees to shame. A scream reverberated through the water with enough force to permanently damage my hearing. But I could see Carson surfacing again. We ran the moment our feet touched the bottom and scrambled ashore. I looked over my shoulder, and man, do I regret it. The man was once again standing on the surface of less than an inch of water behind us. His head was once again hanging by his shoulder, but he reached up, grabbed his hair, and used it to hold his head upright as he glared at us. The waters around him grew turbulent as his milky dead eyes narrowed in pure hatred. Then he vanished. The water became still. The world was instantly as it should be. Well, almost. Cole never resurfaced. Everything after that was a blur. The local sheriff and his men recovered Trish's body from the shore where we left her. There were funerals, furious, grieving relatives, and blackout drinking on my part. But even through the haze, I noticed one thing. The deputies were very careful to avoid touching the water as they worked. They knew that was 19 years ago. Despite my best efforts to ruin things by becoming an alcoholic, Carson married me anyway, once I sobered up for good. We spent years researching the history of the area, and eventually we found a name, Gabriel. Barnes thought an alleged child killer in the 1830s. Barnes disappeared from existence around the same time Sheriff Wilcox's son did. After what we went through, I'd guess Wilcox tied a noose to an anchor or a rock around Barnes' neck and threw him into the lake that would soon carry his name. As for how we survived that night when our friends didn't, we eventually realized that the only difference between us and them was the solid iron bracelet Carson wore on her left wrist that day. There's one more thing I haven't mentioned. At the bottom of that lake, I saw something sticking out of the mud. The end of a human femur. As I write this, my wife is loading our scuba gear to our truck. We know where the bastard is. More importantly, we know how to hurt him. We're gonna burn those fucking bones and put the son of a bitch down. But I'm leaving this as a warning in case we don't come back. If you see someone foundering in Lake Wilcox, let them drown